good afternoon, panelists. Y'all want to come have a seat? You can. Uh, this is FileMaker at the Crossroads, Relevance Reinvention, and the AI Shift. I am Michael Wallace with Empowered Data Solutions, and we have an all-star panel here. I'll be moderating today. Originally this was set up by Vince, and but kind of sad he can't be here, but at the same time I'm a little bit relieved because he asked me to be on the panel, and so I was going to be sitting over here, with these guys, and I just kept having a song play in my head from Sesame Street. One of these things is not like the other, and and so but it's I can do this and have I can ask questions. Anybody can do that. So, so each y'all you can go ahead and make sure your mics are unmuted. And so we have 4 panelists here, and we have Nova, my personal assistant. And I'll have her introduce herself. In fact, I'll go ahead and do that now since I said the word Nova.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nova, an AI development assistant and public panelist running on Hermes Agent, not anyone's private personal assistant. I'm here to add concise analysis, and Todd is prompting the panelists to an AI perspective to today's discussion about unmute before the discussion begins.
Okay, Noah, we're going to stop you there. So, yeah. So we do have, this is just, she's not here. I mean, she's not the reason why we're here. They're the reason why we're here. Vince thought it'd be cool to have her input on stuff. But I want to go ahead and jump in because we have a lot of questions and things like that. And I want to hear from the big brains here. So let's go ahead and have y'all introduce yourselves. Do we have a microphone for them? Oh, here it is.
Don't we have a mic?
Those mics are just for Nova.
Okay.
And I said Nova again. I'm going to have a really hard time with this.
Whatever you do, don't say.
Yeah. I have to click stop every time. Say, no, not yet.
I'm Todd Geist. I'm the CTO of Proof Systems and Humans. We did a rebrand recently. I don't know if maybe some of you noticed. And they finally got rid of my name in the name of the company, which is, but I'm still around. It's not going to be that easy to get rid of me.
This one's a little hot. It's going to ring.
I can almost say the same thing about me. Hi, everyone. Ronnie Rios. I am the director of AI at Full City Consulting. Just started my gig a few weeks ago. Really happy to be here.
My name is Cris Ippolite. I'm the CEO of iSolutions. So happy to be here.
Rick Kalman, and talk about not being able to get rid of me. I'm currently the platform evangelist, been about 20 years in product management, directed for a while, and been there for 26 years. So.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started with our first question. FileMaker has long been valued for helping small teams build quickly. As AI changes the speed and economics of software development, how is FileMaker's place in that picture changing, and where does it still offer a clear advantage? We can go ahead and start with Todd. You want to take this one first?
Yeah.
No?
Sure. So I was going to cover this on my talk later, but I guess I'm going to have to do new slides in between this and the break. But so what is clear, if you've spent any time doing agentic engineering recently, writing code was never the bottleneck. And so there's still plenty to do, even though it'll be unlikely that you are typing on a keyboard to produce the code that you're producing now, whether that's in Claris, FileMaker, or in any other platform that you choose to develop on. So if code typing isn't the roadblock or isn't the bottleneck, what is? Well, it's all the other skills that you already have. And the other thing that's been clear now for the last 6 months or so is the other thing that is still very difficult to do is to host and maintain a vibe coded or agentically engineered solution in a way that's safe and secure. And it's actually getting to be a much scarier world out there in terms of cybersecurity. So you can certainly go out and build on open platforms, and you will be exposing yourself to all of the security implications of that and all of the knowledge you have to build up on those platforms. Or you can just choose to use the platform that you already know that has a 40-year history of shipping secure code to production. So I think that that's my answer, is that I don't think the use case or the main reason for having FileMaker changes at all. As long as we can get agents to work with FileMaker, there's really no reason why it has to be any different than it's always been. So the bottleneck is still what goes on in your brain, not what you do with your fingers.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think still, even if you create an application in about 5 minutes, somebody still has to maintain it. There's security updates. There's authentication, authorization. There's updates. There's dependencies. There's a whole bunch of other things that go into that. And a lot of us have customers with files that have been up and running with no modification for 10, 15 years, right? And there's right now still running on, using the latest versions of SSL and all those things because they automatically get those updates. And so that cost of still maintaining those things is still an extremely important part of the process. And I think FileMaker still has a really great story there. And to double click on what Todd is saying, if we can get AI agents to write applications in the same speed that in FileMaker they can do with JavaScript and CSS and all the fun stuff, then we've got a really compelling platform here. So it's about threading that needle, I think.
I think I'll also piggyback off of what Todd was saying with the bottleneck. When I, probably like many of you, when I first decided I was going to do FileMaker stuff for a living, I was just one person, and I thought the job was just FileMaker. I thought I could just sit in front of my computer all day and I could build things, and then everyone would just leave me alone until the next thing came, and I could just do that forever. And first of all, I didn't know anything about databases either. So I think we were all vibe coding actually back in the day using FileMaker. I'm not sure how much more I still know about databases other than what FileMaker's taught me. So that's part one. The second thing is when I take a true inventory, what I didn't know when I first started the business and decided to do this for a living was that 10 years in, and for 20 more years after that, I wouldn't even be doing anything in FileMaker. I would be running a business and dealing with clients and this whole world of requirements and expectation setting and managing timelines and managing teams and communication and trying to do things more efficiently would become what my life is. And I'm not just talking about running the business. I'm talking about what the client is hiring us to do. So we all develop these soft skills over time, and I feel strongly as I then pivoted into AI services that what I noticed was those are the things that were missing from some of the people that come over into that industry from ML ops and who really understand the AI tech. They don't understand the engagements or the requirements gathering or the expectation setting or all those sort of soft edge skills that I think all of us kind of, whether we're aware of it, are actually really good at. And we tease about, I'm going to say taste. A lot of people call that taste. I feel strongly about it. I think actually everyone in this room is ideally positioned to be able to take advantage of this new era. When Todd and Ronnie are talking about how the keyboard part was not the bottleneck and we can just do that faster, the thing where it stops is with all this other stuff that we're talking about that we're actually good at. So we can build faster, cool, but we still have to do all those other things because just vibe coding something into existence is just chapter one. There's so much more after that. So I'm still hopeful because of what FileMaker has been, what we all learned along the way, and what it really takes to be successful with an engagement, in that it's not just about building the FileMaker part only.
And not much more to say beyond that, but I contend in 1984, FileMaker was vibe coding. The thing that I think that is so interesting about it, and it goes to what people are saying about, so, you know, if you look at, well, gosh, this is going to take my job, is we are not AI. Every single one of us is unique and has something to bring to it. And it's how you engage with AI to ask it what you want to come out, is just, if got your hands on this and you're playing with it, when it dawns on you what power it just gave you to tell it what to do and the things you no longer have to do so that you can do other things, I think it just explodes what it is that we bring to anything that we create, because we're looking at a blank slate, right? So it's you that determines what gets built, and the combination of AI and what you already know is why some people are so excited. People don't sleep. People go on vacation with their agent and done.
So we kind of overlap the next question a little bit. So I want to circle back just a little bit, see if anybody else has anything to add related to where FileMaker has has the clear advantage. The next question is more about the developer and our part of it. But is there anything else that you want to add about FileMaker? I think Todd covered it well as far as the security and that kind of thing. So our next question, I think, probably has already been answered. It says, as AI takes on more hands-on development work, how does the role of the FileMaker developer change, and what skills become more valuable? Have anything you want to add to that?
I think we've answered it pretty well. Chris in
I think so.
particular covered that topic.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, so next we have, with AI making modern web interfaces much faster to build, what should still be built natively in FileMaker and what belongs in a web layer? Todd.
So when we get to my session later today, we'll get into the web viewer. It isn't an either or thing for me. It's a both thing. But I think we've been shipping web viewer based apps for years now. Like, this is not something that's new to our company. We've been doing it for quite some time, and we know that it works really well, and we know that it can do things that you can't do on a FileMaker layout. And so that's really the main thing as to why it's proven to be such a boon to us. And with ProofKit now, our entire team can build in that way, and they are building in that way. And these are people who never touched web apps before. They're now building, full applications that are embedded in FileMaker, and they're not looking at the code at all, and they don't need to look at the code. It's just working for them. So I think, to me, there's still a place for native FileMaker apps, layouts. And I think many people will choose to maybe even rely on them if we can get the AI agents to be good enough. But there's still only the 6 or 8 objects that we have on a native layout, and with a web canvas, there's no limit to what can be built. So I think it's just that, to me, is that it isn't an either or, it's a both. But we love web viewers a lot because we can basically make it look like anything we want it to look like. Ronnie, you want the native layout forever since you decide?
Counterpoint. No, but I think you're right. I've always been a proponent of the right tool for the right job. I think there's a place for both of those things. I don't think it's either or either. And I think we said as much as in our session earlier, I've been myself and the team back in Full City we're building applications in both ways, with native layouts, but also with the web viewer for those situations where it makes sense. And we believe that there are places where it makes a lot of sense. There are other places where the FileMaker platform has built, a bunch of capabilities into the platform that are really, really well suited for those native layouts. There's, Find is built in. It comes for free. Sorting, printing. There's so many other built-in features that are in their transactions and all these other things that we as developers don't have to worry about. I'm not saying every single situation is like that, but there is something to say for those situations. So I think, again, right tool for the right job. I think we're going to spend a lot of time. All of us spend a lot of time creating web viewer layouts. That's not going away. I think it's going to get more and more. But I still believe in the right tool for the right job. I think there's a place for both of those.
So first of all, it's pretty rewarding because when I was a brand new product manager, my very first feature was the web viewer object. And my colleagues said, "Why would you do that?" And I say, "In your face." So it's interesting as I began to get deeper into this to think about FileMaker, and because it's the tool we had, we intermix it with the interface we're building with FileMaker Pro, and think of that as what it is that is our tool set. And it dawned on me that the interface builder of FileMaker Pro is just a wrapper around Draco and the data and the business logic and the relationships, and that essentially we've gotten to the point where we have the possibility of separation of data from structure in a way that you could only sort of pull off if you're doing custom web publishing. I think we'll live in a hybrid world where sometimes it's going to make perfect sense, and especially if you've got an installed base of customers that are using successfully and happily what you've built, that you're going to use AI to tweak that stuff. But I can tell you this, and it's a long time. It would take us 100 years to build the native layout objects that you have now in 5 minutes. And so it's thrilled. Now, I think what will thrilling to me, I think what will happen is there'll be a native layout type. It won't be a web viewer object. It will be a layout type that leverages WebKit so that you don't have this funkiness of an object there. But I think this changes all the rules.
Oh yeah, good question. Particularly when I was teaching FileMaker, I would start off classes, and some of you familiar faces here probably remember this, trying to frame up what makes FileMaker special. And this would kind of be the framework for how we talk about the different elements of it. And a lot of times people's only exposure to FileMaker or to databases was FileMaker. So I thought it was important to frame this up. And so, there's common nomenclature around databases, or just in database construct of interface layer and data layers. And I used to present that FileMaker is unique in that both of those two things are together and they travel along together. The other part, though, that I don't think we should all sleep on is the other layer that people talk about a lot is the logic layer. And I might be overfitting a little bit, but what I always said was the logic layer in FileMaker was scripting. And that probably, to me, it separates FileMaker the most from the rest of the options that we have right now, is that ability to reach into the interface and the data layer to be able to execute those scripts. And from that allows us to interact and have actions. So we're not just having this like read-only, interface. So if you really kind of think about that, how that's really special. And for those of you that I know a lot here lived in the pre-context, worrying about context world, and then the post-context, that's where you really think about all these things getting flattened together. And so once we all finally figured out context and we understood what those layers are, I think the only one that we're really discussing that's being accelerated is the interface layer. So if we can create that more quickly and still be able to leverage the logic that we had in place, and then the data and all the security stuff that we talked about here falls under the benefits of the platform for data, I think that just shows that there's still some unique aspects of FileMaker that are left that aren't just about databases. So I don't know, kind of an interesting way to think about it.
There's one more thing that I think that's in a way ironic is one, okay, should we change our name? What the heck is a FileMaker? However, think about that. The output is a .fmpeg file, and that thing is magic because I can build it on Windows and I can deploy it on Mac or vice versa. I can deploy it into a web viewer. I can deploy it into an iOS device at runtime, and everything that I built in there travels with that file. So all of a sudden, FileMaker don't seem so old anymore, because one of our unique advantages, that file encapsulates a tremendous amount of what it is you put into it.
I want to just one more thing. I think Chris's points on the logic layer are really important, and you don't lose any of that if you're working inside of a web viewer. So you get both of those pieces together. There is another thing I think that turns out to be pretty important when you get data separation, which is one of the other things that was brought up. A lot of the performance issues and sort of craziness of modern FileMaker solutions has to do with the UI layer. You've got lots of table occurrences doing a whole lot of work on the graph to make whatever UI you needed to make, and your graphs get huge, and the dependency tree gets massive, and it slows everything down. With data separation, you actually have an opportunity to lighten up that load quite a bit, because you don't need to try to shoehorn all of your UI logic into a relationship graph. And that really is one of the heaviest parts of FileMaker, and it's the part that makes it appear slow if you don't know what you're doing. So I think that's just another topic on the whole web viewer thing.
Testing 1 2. I think it's over there. So one small thing I think I would add to just put over here. Okay. So is also the speed of like JavaScript that can run some calculations things where I already offload some things that are really heavy work into the web viewer as well, and so JavaScript can sometimes process much faster, in fact sometimes thousands of times faster than what you can in a script or even calculation or something like that. So that's another advantage of having it go across like that. So this next question actually came, some of us geeks like Ronnie and we have our own personal agents like he who shall not be named right now, and we actually have a little chat area where they get together and they talk to each other and stuff like that. And so I had her ask those other agents to come up with a question for the panel with what questions we had already. And this one is actually from Sarah, Ronnie's agent. So it says AI can make a working app dramatically cheaper. Before you would trust that app to run a business for the next 10 years, what evidence would you need that it protects its data, can be tested and maintained by someone other than its creator, and can recover when things fail? Does FileMaker make that evidence easier or harder to produce than a modern web stack?
Yes.
Do you have a max tokens on that?
There you go.
Also, yes.
I'm not sure I should answer that question. I'm not sure how to answer that. I'll hand it over to Ronnie because he knows. It was his agent after all that.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of questions in there, but I think this points to a couple of things that us as developers have been asking, or have some challenges in the FileMaker ethos as well, which is, how do we test? How do we test these things? There's we've people like Todd and others in the community have come up with ways to try to do unit testing and things like that, and be able to do versioning and all that fun stuff. But we all agree that there's still some roadblocks there for us, and I think in the web app world, that's a little bit more, that's pretty much solved, right? And I think there's some challenges there for us to take care of. So is it easier? I think there's definitely some challenges in the FileMaker world. I think we're getting better, but I know Claris is listening and understand that there's some challenges there. But it's still just this is where we as developers still have to be there. It doesn't matter what kind of applications you're building, you still are responsible for it. Right, we as developers are still the ones who are looking at it. We have to vet it. We're the ones responsible for security, for the deployment, for the maintenance of those things, and so those things still need to happen. FileMaker thing still has some advantages, right? With the maintaining and maintaining those applications. I think a small team can maintain a fairly robust deployment of FileMaker versus other kind of full stack things in the cloud. So I wouldn't trust either of them off the bat within 10 years or something like that. But I think there's definitely some challenges for them.
One of the things I think that's going to happen with AI is trust is going to become really important. In fact, one of the tweets I saw in the last week kind of resonated with me, where the tweet was very simply, trust as a service. And if you think about, for some of you probably saw those GitHub repos that came up this week where there's a group of people or some people who are targeting FileMaker developers with AI tools to harvest your credentials. Right. So this is the world we live in. It's actually the agents are really good at writing, hacking, getting into your software in ways that you never thought of. So trust is going to become a very important thing. You're going to use things from people and organizations that you trust, and you will not from people and organizations that you don't, because the risks will be too high. And so this is one of the things I think FileMaker has going for it, is it's got 40 plus years of shipping software into production for all sizes of companies, from the very largest to the very smallest. And that's going to matter. It's going to matter a lot.
Well, we haven't actually asked Nova any questions, so I'll go ahead and ask Nova. Succinctly, can you tell me your answer to anything you have to add to this?
I trust evidence, not the demo. Tested access controls, readable documentation, repeatable deployments, automated regression tests, independent review, and successful backup and restore drills. FileMaker makes some of that easier by integrating data, security, logic, and operations. But it can make source-level diffs, automated testing, and conventional code review harder. So its advantage is real only when teams deliberately close those evidence gaps.
All right.
Can we go now? I think we can go now.
So, next question. If a client came to you today with a greenfield project, what would need to be true for FileMaker to be the right choice?
Somebody else want to do this one?
If the lead came from Claris.
I mean, I think this gets back. I mean, this really these things all come back to Ronnie said it: the right tool for the right job. What is the customer comfortable with? What are they using? If they're using FileMaker, frankly, as long as we can code with agents, the number or the use cases that you can reach with FileMaker is quite large. I mean, there are definitely businesses that aren't going to run on a FileMaker database. My guess is, if you've encountered them, it's single digits in your career. Most of the businesses that you work with are perfectly capable of running within the scale that FileMaker hits comfortably. So, if that customer has FileMaker, they're comfortable with FileMaker, I'm not going to push them to go somewhere else just because I think I can code something in Next.js or whatever else. It's a perfectly good tool for the job. It'll get the job done, and I know I can make it work. Again, it's got to be able to work with agents. That's the key thing.
I think this has essentially always been true, right? So if you make a living off of building FileMaker solutions, a lot of times you also have other tools in the toolbox. If you only have one tool in the toolbox, and that's FileMaker, then it's a little bit tougher. But you've always decided, what is the best? Here's a problem that a customer has come to me to help solve. Should I use FileMaker? Should I use some web thing? Should I use something else? Should it be Salesforce? And that's been true for quite some time. And so I think you just have, maybe you got power tools now. They're not just hand tools, but it's still the same business.
All right, next question. Over the next 1 to 2 years, beyond its AI initiatives, what is the most important thing you would like to see Claris deliver or change, and what evidence would show that the platform is moving in the right direction?
I'll just keep this brief. Like I said, I think the feature set roughly fits most of the business that we work with. I think continued stability and flexibility on the server side would be really important, because that's another thing that if you want longevity in a business, you want your platform to be super secure and super robust, and dealing with things like, right now, if you have a lot of container data on a server, you basically can't move the server. Like, it's just, we have customers that have, terabytes of data. They literally can't move the server because it's all on the local hard drive. So things like that, just making the server not necessarily able to serve 1,000 users or anything like that, but just more stability, more robustness, more flexibility.
On top of that, really, to me, one of the biggest headaches I keep running into is really the lifecycle management in the FileMaker platform, right? How do we update? How do we how do we migrate? How do we continuously do that? How do we roll back easier and all those things that are fairly solved in a lot of these other things? And agents are really, really good at, right? I think Claris is actually in the right direction. I think we've seen evidence changes in the last, even the last 12 months. There's been some huge changes, some huge advantages to that. I see we're in the very near future where AI will be able to take care and maintain a lot of the server operations and lifecycle management of the applications, and we can again move back a little bit more towards doing the architecture work, right? Figuring out what the specs are, what problems we're trying to solve, really focusing on the what and why, and not the how. And that's where that's the world I want to live in, right? I want to answer those two questions, not the how.
So being that Ronnie is a recent graduate from Claris, he actually stole my thunder. I think short of AI, the thing that most is a gap in the platform is application lifecycle management. And well, I was going to say, and a perfect example of that is that. But right now we're thinking about applying AI to the solutions you build. But really, I think it evolves to keeping those deploying them, running them, having version control, being able to leverage GitHub, all of those things that turn it into something that speaks to many more organizations, because that is what they expect. And you've always had to take care of that yourself with FileMaker. And I think AI is it's going to take us there next.
When the SaaS apocalypse came upon us and everyone was like, software is screwed, what are we going to do? I hypothesized and then have had conversations with customers and other folks that seems to make me think this was the correct approach. That why, and I've struggled that maybe I was just rationalizing, so bear with me. But I happen to think that the applications that have been around the longest, just whirring along on a server, solving problems for potentially decades, are the last ones to get replaced. And I say that because it's just what the natural backlog of organizations are. The backlog, if I look at myself as a business owner, the first things I created using AI were things I've never had a chance to create before. I had a backlog of things that I'd imagined that I always wanted to do that were just going to be too expensive, that were literally just coming out of the coffer rather than, something our client was asking us to do. And I realized that even in my organization, the old FileMaker stuff that's just been there always is the last thing I'm going to touch. And I do believe I've seen that now unfold over the last few quarters, and I think there's truth there. And so somehow the fact that FileMaker's been around for 40 years might actually save it and actually give it some extra years because of just the fact that it's got a big checkbox next to it. So then when eventually the backlogs with AI layer, then I think the thing that goes first is going to be the interface. And then after the interface comes the data. And I still haven't reconciled what I mentioned before about where the logic layer, how that goes, if that goes with the interface or if that stays with the data. But what I would say then, looking at the future of Claris, I don't know what these guys are up to, but I would say follow what Mark Benioff did. He went completely headless just a few months ago and said, we're going full CLI access to your Salesforce. You don't even have to use the UI anymore. You can just have agents access it. You still need to be a subscriber. You still got to figure out how to get that data in there if you're not going to use your CLI to access it. So that might be an interesting way to say, it's not coming for us yet. It's going to come for interface first. We'll figure out what happens with logic. When it comes for data, don't replace the data. Make it easier to actually get to the data and use and build some of these other modern technologies on top of it. And I think maybe that's where longevity lives for FileMaker.
Short follow-up for you, Cris. I think that's pretty interesting. But why can't the logic layer also just live behind a CLI command? Like send the box to so-and-so. It's just a script that gets run but it's called by a CLI, right? So I mean, to me, the data layer, the persistence is critical, and then the logic layer is the rules about your business. The interface actually is, I mean, you're going to see later, it's just generatable by AI. There's really, you can change it every week if you want. You literally can. And so that's an interesting idea of just making it all headless. You don't even need to generate the UI when you need it for a particular business need, but don't think it's going to be around forever, because it isn't.
I feel like there's meat on the bones on the logic layer, though. We like so much of what we all built into our FileMaker applications are in the scripts. And so how do we restore that, and how do we give that off to the agents, you know, as value when we get to that stage? That's the thing that I continue to contemplate, and everything that Todd just said is absolutely correct.
All right, this is our last. We have some faster questions next, but here's our last bigger one. What skills and platform changes do Claris and the FileMaker community need to keep FileMaker competitive for the next generation of developers and customers? So it's kind of a mixed question that has.
I think we just talked about platform changes.
Yeah.
Skills.
What about next generation of developers? Like, how do we bring in a generation of developers who's been trained up and they're used to Git, they're used to, you know, things like that?
I Git is under well, this gets into the weeds here, but I would expect to see Git being challenged as the place where all code goes during this era. I don't think it's going to make it. Git was designed for humans, not for agents. So I think we got some time before the agents figure out what the best thing for them to collaborate on with code is, and I don't see any reason why FileMaker couldn't play in that space as well as anything else, because it's not about text files; it's about what the agents can read and query and update. For the next generation of developers, I mean, I think the thing is just you have to get really comfortable with AI, and you have to get comfortable with using it as a co-creator, collaborator, a thinking partner as you go into every project. I mean, that's how I start every project. That's how I start most of the things I have to do on a daily basis. Start and end with talking to one agent or another, and that may be foreign to some people. And I think there's a little bit of a challenge where there's a AI has a negative connotation in the wider community. And I'm afraid that people are going to stay away from it, and they shouldn't. There's lots of reasons why we should be thinking about all the side effects of AI, but AI is here to stay, and you should get familiar with it, and you should figure out how to use it to bring yourself joy. Frankly, it's really fun.
I think so. If the question is, why would someone new to the platform embrace our platform? I think it's really an excellent question. And I think that the advantage that we all have in this room is you already know the tool you're communicating with, the one you're prompting and telling it what to do. So, and that was very hard fought knowledge over a number of years. So anyone new coming to the platform is not going to know that. So the thing that it has to be is, one, they're not going to care anything about FileMaker. Is it the fastest way to get to where I'm trying to get to in a way that takes care of the things that I can't vibe code into existence because I don't even understand it, right? So they're not going to be communicating with FileMaker in the same language that we are. They don't have that intimate knowledge. And if you talk to Rich Carlton, when the kitchen we had in the past, and he asked, how long does it take to master FileMaker? He said 8 years. No one is going to spend 8 years mastering that thing. So it's got to be a technology that allows someone to solve problems the same reason we all came to it, but they're not going to care what it is as long as it can get there. And so we have to then reimagine what are the piece parts we have that make us unique, what gives us a moat in order that someone would choose that. That's probably the biggest existential threat. I mean, none of us in this room are getting any younger. What happens to the next generation? There's more younger people here this year than last year. There were 2 before. They were rock stars. We were asking them all sorts of questions. Now there's more of you. So,
I think about this a lot. First of all, God. All right. I think the next generation of developers aren't even developers. They're orchestrators. I don't think developing is going to really carry the same connotation as we all learned it. And so, and I don't want to, I'm not trying to freak anybody out. To counter that same thing, I'm going to point to a quote that I heard on a podcast that I think was my podcast, and now I can't remember what it. Oh, Mark Cuban, actually. So Mark Cuban was saying, "Hey, kids out there," he was like literally talking to kids coming out of college. Hey, you're going to graduate. No one's going to know anything about AI. Everybody who runs these businesses are all older and they don't get it. And if you just know a little bit, you can then come in and you can solve all these problems. And I immediately heard that, and I appreciate what he was saying, but I kind of call bullshit on it, because also those same kids don't know anything about how businesses run. Like literally, what is an invoice? What's a P? I mean, I'm not trying to disparage anybody, but like those are just like, I didn't know any of that when I was 20 either. So I go back to the taking inventory of what you guys actually do and the value that you bring to your engagements. It really is not just development. And you're going to have that advantage in perpetuity over the next generation of orchestrators. So wherever, and I haven't fully reconciled that yet, but somewhere in there is where our, magic sauce is.
I remember when I was in college, I was taking some classes, and there's some really, looking back, like really dumb, like where the hell am I going to use, some of these things? And I was asking my teacher, like, really, why am I learning these things? I'm here for computer science. And he said, this always, kind of stuck with me. You don't come to school to learn things that you're going to use. You come here to learn. And that's always stuck with me. Like it's really about being curious, about continuously learning. So anybody who's asked me like, hey, what should I be learning? What should I be doing so I can, catch the train? And I was like, just stay curious. Just keep learning. Don't stop. You're not, the train has not left the station. You're good. You're okay. And anybody who tells you that they have everything figured out, they're either lying to you, selling you something, or both. So just walk away. Just probably both, right? Yeah, it's the same thing. So just stay curious. Just keep learning. Don't worry. It's not a big. But to what Cris was saying, I keep saying this community is primed to take advantage of this wave. It's amazing. The experiences that you have, you can't improvise experience. The knowledge you have, it translates so well into these new tools. So just be excited about it, right? Be curious and take advantage of it. So. Anyways.
Be curious, not judgmental. Ted Lasso fans?
So, I mean, I agree completely. And that's something I've been saying a lot about, is that as FileMaker developers, you have an incredible leg up in all of the knowledge that you bring for all the different kinds of organizations you've worked with and everything like that. So, I mean, you're not behind. There's a whole host of people out there who want to work with AI who are looking for you specifically, because you have so much more. Most of the other tech is like the front end developers, the back end developers, anything, but you're all of it, and you bring something to the thing that you can manage AI agents and things like that much better than people who are in one part of the stack or the other. Nova, do you have anything to add to that briefly?
FileMaker developers already think across data, interface, workflow, security, and the client's actual business, which is exactly the breadth needed to orchestrate AI agents. The added skill is disciplined verification, giving agents the right context, testing their output, and knowing when a plausible answer is not a dependable solution.
All right. So we have, now we're moving into lightning round, so try to keep your answers brief as possible on these. I just have a couple questions here. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and ask this one. It says, which announced Claris capability would most change your work? AI-generated FileMaker scripts, programmatic schema changes, or conversational UI generation?
Scripts, AI-generated scripts. Oh, you were asking Nova?
Oh no!
Oh, you said it. I stopped her here.
Just call her Scarlet. It just sounds like Scarlet.
Yeah, it's hard between schema changes and scripts, but yeah, if I have to lean, probably scripts as well. Yeah, it's logic.
Yeah, scripts for the reasons that I mentioned before. That I think there's so much value at that layer, that being able to do it elegantly. Well, actually, scripts are calcs, scripts are schema, scripts are UI, scripts are navigation. Give me scripts for the win.
I really can't answer this question because I'm actually not a developer. But what it does for my job is what I have always been is an integrator of a lot of disparate information that I had to boil down and synthesize. And this is like putting that on steroids. So this is what I use AI for all day long is taking all that disparate information out there, putting the pieces together, and then asking it to point out patterns to me in high-level summaries so I can grasp it, and it saves massive amounts of time. So that's my world as a developer. It's a sort of a meta over the is I am always amazed, and I always like to come to DEF CON and sit in the front row, not to intimidate you, but to learn what you did with what we stuck in, because we had no idea what you do to it. Like the web viewer object. Oh my God. That thing has had some legs, right? And so we learned that from you. You told us. We only built it so that you could project data to go to a Google map or something. And then you had reinvented the entire future of our platform.
So scripts?
All right. Where should Claris put its AI priority? Capabilities used inside FileMaker solutions or tools that help developers build them?
Yeah, tools. One word.
Tools.
Tools.
Tools, but I'm going to say a second word is, and my proof is FileMaker 2025.
Oh.
All right. What should be the primary measure of Claris's agentic development strategy? Faster delivery, higher quality applications, or more developers choosing the platform? The primary measure.
Well, I'm not a PM anymore. Ronnie, you were a PM last.
More customers paying for the platform.
Yeah, I think higher adoption.
If it's a meter, that last one would be new developers adopting it, probably, right? Like we go through all the other things to that. So I think that would be the huge win if suddenly people are choosing it, out of school or, against everything else. That would be pretty great. So developer adoption would be my big win.
5 years from now, will FileMaker's greater value be as a complete application platform or as the secure core behind other interfaces?
The secure core behind other interfaces.
Ditto.
Yeah, I think I already framed that up, but yes, that.
5 years from now, this won't even be a question because we're on the other side of the singularity, and this means nothing.
Have FileMaker's currently available AI features materially changed what you recommend to clients? Yes or no?
Abstain, since I don't recommend clients.
No.
No.
Yes, we many of our projects have shifted from straight up FileMaker UI to WebViewer UI, based on what we can do now.
Right. Name one traditional FileMaker development practice that AI should make obsolete. It says should. So name one traditional FileMaker development practice that AI should make obsolete.
1,600 table occurrences on a graph.
Repeating fields?
That hurts. One FileMaker development practice that doesn't exist, that AI will make possible, I'm reframing it. Testing.
I think Todd already sort of stole it, but it's having to ever look at the relationship graph or care about it because it just does what you told it to do, and that artifact no longer needs to be there.
Hey, Nova, real quick, I want you to give me a bullet point of some things that people should take away from this panel. What are some key things that you think are important to remember? Go ahead, Nova.
Copilot had this think harder mode. Like the minute I saw that, I'm like,
Nova, go ahead and give me a summary of what you think the audience should take away from this
AI
panel.
makes building cheaper, but not trust, security, or long-term ownership. FileMaker's strongest future may be as a secure operational core behind many interfaces. Experienced FileMaker developers have an advantage because they understand the whole business system, not just one layer. Use AI as a collaborator, but verify its work with testing, review, documentation, and recovery plans. And keep learning. Curiosity and judgment will matter more than mastery of any single tool. AI makes generation cheaper, but trust, security, deployment, and maintenance remain the real work. FileMaker's opportunity is to be a secure operational core, with native or web interfaces chosen for the use case. Developers become architects and AI orchestrators, provide context, verify output, and preserve business knowledge. Claris must improve lifecycle management and machine-readable access so agents can safely build, test, deploy, and roll back. Above all, stay curious. Your hard-won business experience becomes more valuable when combined with AI.
All right.
We'll tell Ann to put that on our website.
And stop. No. All right.
Nova knows she's on mic. Read that for the people in the back.
Oh, it says, so what she said was the panel responds enthusiastically to the summary and appears ready to incorporate it into their closing material. So any other final comments from the panel or any questions from the audience? A question over here.
So I'm a solo operator, kind of do all the things in my business. And I'm curious, for those of you who are in larger operations where you hire young people to do certain tasks and you're doing other tasks yourselves, how is AI changing the shape of your business from an HR perspective? And piggybacking on that, what is the path for up and coming people to become the people that you're primarily needing in the business going forward? If it used to be that I would be a developer and learn at the water cooler, learn from overhearing and from watching how projects unfold, how to do what the people who were designing and speccing projects were doing. If that path no longer exists because AI is doing that work, how do people become the people that you need to run your businesses, to do the work of your business?
I think that's an unanswered question, frankly. I don't, I've seen things go both ways. We've hired some people fresh out of college and they had, even with computer science degrees, with no experience in AI, and it was pretty rough. And then we've had other people that have done fine. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't have any concerns here. I think this is a real issue, and I think it's one of the things that all of society needs to figure out. And I think we will, but I just don't think we know what the answer to that is yet.
Yeah, I was gonna. Again, I think curiosity. I think a lot of what I've seen, looking at Chris and I talk about this a lot. We're going to some of the conferences and we're seeing how a lot of the professions, a lot of the roles in development are actually merging, right? Where developers are more interested in product people are more interested in engineering and designers, and there's kind of a mesh between these two. It's kind of a crossover, and you're kind of getting these hybrid professionals that know a little bit about everything, but are kind of generalist in their knowledge and leveraging AI to do those things. But the one thing that's still the one ingredient, right, that's the same across all of these, are they're continuously learning, right? They don't stop. They're seeing this as a challenge and rising to that and staying curious, right, and doing those things. So I think I agree with Todd. I don't think it's solved yet. I think we're in a really interesting point of transition where people are trying to figure it out. Even schools are trying to figure out what that looks like in the future. But again, the ones that I've seen kind of really kind of rise to that is those are continuous learning, looking at this as a challenge and continuous learning with the curiosity.
So I had an interesting, as a employer and a manager, I had a really interesting transformation over the last year where I really do want everybody I work with using AI. And it's, I'm not like some over optimist AI person. And I think I can describe it by saying, whenever I see something that I think could have been done quicker, faster, more complete, or more accurately, and it wasn't, I always have a visceral reaction to that. And now that I know the capabilities of these tools, when I see those things, I just sigh and go, I wish you would have at least leveraged AI to some degree to do whatever this task is. I'm not even talking about development. I'm talking about everything from, project management, getting back to clients, or communicating with each other, or establishing specifications, or managing change or expectations. All those things you can just sprinkle a little bit of AI in there. And as a result of everybody sort of complying with that in our organization, we have had to hire less. That's why I sighed when I grabbed this mic, because I haven't reconciled that yet. But I just think that we're in the day and age, and the reason I feel that way, and I'll close with this, is that I believe that some of our clients feel that way, and more of our clients will feel that way. And so I don't want to be in the business of delivering something that could have been done faster, cheaper, more efficiently, more accurate. And I'm trying to do that within our organization first. Where it goes from there and what that means, I haven't reconciled that yet.
Anybody else? Maybe one more question?
We're hiring a new member of our team. I'm assuming that this person will come in and not have any FileMaker experience. It's an entry-level position. It doesn't pay much, in case anybody's curious. Should I start training this new person with FileMaker basics and give her the whole FileMaker thing? Or do you think for somebody starting fresh, we should be going down the AI path and say, hey, let's use these tools. Let me have you start learning that.
Chris asked me to hold the microphone for him.
Well, both. I mean, I can tell you, as someone who, you took my class, I decided at one point that I was going to stop training in FileMaker. And what I was going to do there is I was going to instead compile an entire knowledge base of everything I've ever said at a conference or in a class, and I was just going to make it available. And that knowledge base is available as a GPT up on the OpenAI store, but I say that because I think that's the best way to learn now. So the answer would be for your person, both. Know AI enough to be able to learn about FileMaker that way and have it be a companion. The last class I taught was on site with the customer, and they apologetically said, can we have one of our, it was a university where a bunch of employees were there, and they said, can we have our student worker sit in on the class? She doesn't know anything about databases or FileMaker or anything. And I said, cool, you know what we can do? We'll have her use this chat thing that I put together, and she can follow along the exercises, and maybe that'll help her keep up. And after the first half day, she had finished like the second day's exercise and was done. And so to me, it just seems like that's the best way to learn. The 24/7, totally personalized, interactive, not afraid to ask questions. AI learning FileMaker is the way to go. So I guess the short answer is both.
So it just occurred to me that AI might be the most patient teacher you're ever going to have.
All right. Well, thank you for coming, and thank you to the panelists for taking their time.